That's what I really like to emphasize, really.
Mm. I mean, and I think this is also why it's changing the whole distribution of medical devices. There's a lot of distribution models which will include sales and not just the warehousing and logistics. But because we are seeing this technological boom, but also regulatory boom, that we're becoming more and more aware of hazards that didn't get to the spotlight previously because we're doing more toxicology testing, biocompatibility testing. We are realizing that there is a steady state that you need to keep that device throughout the process. And this is making distribution a lot harder. It's no longer a one-size-fits-all. Service level agreements are becoming extremely important now in this space.
And we'll talk a little bit more about service level agreements later, just so that we keep things moving forward.
Yep.
So can you give me an example? You talk about it's really important that a device is maintained. Actually, maybe this is going into service level agreement stuff, but you say it's really important to keep a device maintained in a certain state.
Yes.
Could you give me an example of that so that it's really clear to the listeners what you mean by that?
So if you sell a device that is marked as clean, and in the clinical evaluation and biocompatibility reports, we pick up that cotton fibers, if inhaled through breathing circuits, is actually really bad for your lungs. So cotton fibers on our skin when we're walking around is not a big problem. But if it goes to the lungs don't necessarily like it. All of a sudden you have this strange little warning and terms and conditions of, if we are going to store these devices, we shouldn't get any cotton fibers that actually come into these circuits because it could cause certain reactions that is unanticipated. Now, all of a sudden, you've manufactured it, but you give it over to a distributions partner. If you just give it over and you don't clearly on your IF, you put that warning, you don't clearly provide the training, and you don't clearly have a validation to make sure that their warehouse facility is not next to cotton fields or doesn't distribute cotton products, it's all going to go lost in translation, and that hazard can actually materialize. So this is an example of trying to get something in a steady state. It doesn't matter anymore. And I think in the past there were these silos. Oh, we're the manufacturers. It went out our doors. And it was with our distributors. Well, go and speak to them. They have their own quality management system.
But actually it's about outcomes again, isn't it?
Yes. Also,
it comes down to outcomes.
If the distributor gave it to the NHS and they store it in the cotton cupboard, where is it? So it's this traceability has become, and then this is where the CDP is also really important. We know the whole journey of the product. If we identify hazards in the clinical development plan or the biological evaluation plan, we have to plan throughout what agreements needs to be in place, and also what needs to be in your marketing materials, your instructions for use, your training materials, to make sure that these hazards don't materialize.
Wasn't also then a situation, Jackie, where if you swap as a component, that's considered to be in breach of what the device has been authorized to be used by the manufacturer?
Yes. You can't look the other way and say, well, we have a distributor and they will assemble the device. We don't need a license for medical device. We're just selling components. As soon as those two components are put together and it meets the legal requirement of a medical device, even though you have a contract with a distributor, the fact that they amalgamate and they put this device together immediately makes them a manufacturer. So you have to check throughout your distribution chain that nobody meets the definition for another responsibility they have under the regulations. And this is what we are realizing through this whole map out to market of, you've got to make people aware through service level agreements of what roles they are playing in the market.
It's interesting because all these documents are so intertwined, aren't they? So we're talking about the clinical development plan, which was really early on stage, but actually goes all the way through the product life cycle. But that's about what do we want to get to and what problems are we going to bump into along the way, which is like cotton fibers could be a problem. And then you have your a QMS that will actually document everything that you need along the way. So how you do everything along the way, and then how you move it forward to go out to market and things like that. Again, looking for cotton fibers, if we're using that example. But then at the end, you've got your CER once you're approved, which is everything that you can and can't say, what your state of the art looks like, where your competitors are, what their clinical data looks like as well. But they all tie in, because if you want to have a really strong CER and you want to maintain that over time once you're in the market, you've got to make sure your QMS is strong, and you've got to make sure you foresaw all the issues that are about to come your way in your clinical development plan. Because if you didn't do those, you'll end up with problems when you get to market. And I think the biggest message that's coming out of all of this for me is it's about the patient. And actually everything that you're doing from regulatory and distribution channels is about maintaining that quality outcome for the patient.
Patient safety is the leading factor that's making all the change.
The outcomes as well, because it's also about using the device correctly so that you get the best outcomes for the patient. Because it might be if you don't use it quite right, you don't. So it's actually, regulatory really are marketing's best friend, because we're all fighting the same fight here to actually get exceptional outcomes for patients, whether that's through training materials, QMSs, clinical development plan, et cetera, et cetera.
But marketing is key in making that communication easier to spread, people easier to train, and to get on the same page a lot quicker through visualization, through videos. Regulatory undertaking this kind of work, it's just, we do not have those skills to help communication come through. Business development, as much as they are fantastic at connecting people, they cannot do marketing's work in the sense of articulating something correctly, having it well understood, and also definitely not putting visuals together. It's imperative that we all work together to utilize our strengths.
Yeah, no, but we can't. It's everyone working together, isn't it, to get to the right outcome for sure. Great.